Yeah, where are we going, Lola?
I'm a bit like, should we be getting on the train to Victoria?
Yeah. We're,
Pretty close to the train.
we're looking for tacos.
It's the most amazing rooftop bar at Waterloo.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Becky, the Slow Traveling Wanderer. Do you hear that sound? Listen. It's the sound of being up on a plane, flying to your next destination. Oh, how I miss that sound. We'll be back to normal soon though. This isn't forever. Okay, so this is another installment of my sub-series Storytime. The theme today is Mexico abroad. I've traveled a lot and I've lived in 5 different countries if you count the US, where I'm from. I also have Mexican heritage, which means I've always been interested in all things Mexico related whenever I've traveled to other countries. I lost a lot of my pictures, unfortunately, because I deleted them over the years since my phone's maxed out on storage. So I'm piecing together what I have to show you how Mexico influences the world and some of the strange Mexican influenced, quote unquote, stuff you find in weird places. Now, interestingly enough, many countries outside of the US became interested in Mexico via the US. Which has exported its fascination with Mexico, including Cinco de Mayo, which I'll show you too. However, that also means that other countries haven't exactly gotten it right because they copy the US and the US doesn't necessarily know what Mexican, like real Mexico is many times. A lot of times what these countries think is Mexican is sometimes Californian or it's a US version or knockoff. And in the case of the UK, which is odd, they mix up Mexico and Spain all the time. Lols. All right, let's get into it. Our first stop is London. I mentioned earlier in other videos that in 2016 I lived in London for a year. And when I arrived, the first thing I did was investigate, okay, where do I get Mexican food? So I've been to London twice before in 2009 and 2010, and the options were horrendous. All of the Mexican places used red kidney beans as the only bean in Mexican dishes. And as you know, that is not Mexican. So it was a disaster. But fast forward to 2016, they had upped their game a little bit, and a friend and I went to this Mexican vegan place, and it was good. In this first picture though, you see patatas bravas, and that's a Spanish tapas dish. So remember I said they get the countries mixed up? Ay, London. The guacamole was great. And then I had a cochinita pibil tostada, which you see here. That's made with jackfruit, and it was tasty. And then lastly, I had a mole taco made with mushrooms as the base with the mole sauce. And I have to give it to them, the mole was pretty good. And I was definitely craving mole because that's not an easy thing to find. So, you know, all in all, it wasn't mind-blowing, but it was good to try at least once. On to Cinco de Mayo in London, or Cinco de Drinko, as some people in the US call it. I had the opportunity to spend 2 Cinco de Mayos in London in 2016 and 2018. Firstly, let's talk about what Cinco de Mayo is and what it isn't. Number 1, it is not a Mexican holiday. In Mexico, people don't even celebrate it, except for the few gringos that happen to be in Mexico during that time, and to their surprise, there are no fiestas. But why? ¿Por qué? Secondly, Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day. That falls on September 16th. Cinco de Mayo is a date that commemorates the Battle of Puebla, when a small Mexican army fought and beat the French forces, which were much bigger, during the second French intervention in Mexico. Yes, the French were in Mexico at one point. Now, this didn't end French rule in Mexico. It wasn't until the US assisted Mexico in 1865, following the end of the American Civil War, which finally helped expel the French in 1867. Having said that, Cinco de Mayo started being celebrated in California in 1863 and is really therefore a celebration of Mexican-American heritage, and it's really a Mexican-American holiday that has now been exported to the UK. So how is Cinco de Mayo celebrated in London? Well, the same way as it is in the US, really. It's really an excuse to get drunk. In 2016, I had a good friend and a colleague from Minnesota whom you see here. He had spent a year in Cuernavaca during high school and loves Mexico. So he and I found a celebration in Chelsea, one of the most upscale boroughs in London. And we took this picture wearing sombreros and had several tequila shots that night and listened to a trio play songs that were somewhere between boleros and flamenco. Huh? Again, it's London. They're trying. The second time in 2018, I was living with an American of Taiwanese descent, and she's a big foodie and loved to cook. So she found a salsa making competition that was happening in her neighborhood, which was about 30 minutes outside of London. So I taught her how to make authentic salsa, and we didn't have the best ingredients, but we gave it our best try. And we didn't win, but we got an honorable mention.
People are coming over for the spice now. People wanting the spicy one.
This one's really sped up. Who is it?
Oh, that one's cute.
Is that?
We drank lots of cerveza, and went looking for tacos.
Yeah, where are we going?
That was the video clip you saw at the beginning. That was us looking for tacos. Guess what? There were no tacos to be found. And it's Cinco de Mayo, and no one bothered to capitalize on it by making some tacos. So my goodness, that just shows you London has a lot to learn. We then went to a popular bar that they knew of that had lots of tequila shots. Essentially just called it a night after that. The last pictures that you see are from a restaurant I went to a few days later where I had some jackfruit tacos and hibiscus, or Jamaica, it's called in Mexico, a hibiscus champagne cocktail, and it was really, really tasty. The tacos were good too. And that's the end of the London story. So now we move on to our next location. Yes, before we go, the local Subway in London, I had to take this picture because now they sell nachos with Subway sandwiches. You don't even see that in LA, which happens to have the largest Mexican population outside of Mexico. And can we talk about the price? £3? It's roughly $4 for a small side of nachos. Okay. The interesting thing is you're seeing it in Spain as well. For example, they have jalapenos and Mexican-inspired sandwiches as well. In Barcelona, a lot of the restaurants sell nachos, and the same goes for pubs in London. So there you have it. So on to Hamburg. What I found in Germany, at least in Hamburg, is that they really like spicy food. Spice is called scharf. And here you have a habanero bottle that a friend of mine, when we went to eat, poured all over her sandwich. And then when you go to the supermarket, you see tuna fish Mexico, and basically it's a mix of red beans, corn, and some other veggies with tuna. Okay. Then went to this Mexico Strasse taco place, and one of the things that jumped out there was the price. I actually went there on a date with a guy that ended up being my boyfriend when I was in Germany. He was actually a Spaniard, but had been living in Germany for like 16 years and didn't really know Mexican food. So I took him to this restaurant, not knowing what to expect, but I just wanted to try. It was one of the few Mexican restaurants in Hamburg. A taco was €5, which essentially equates to $5.78 per taco, basically $6 per taco. I didn't know this and I didn't really pay attention. So he and I sat down, we ordered, I think I ordered 3 different tacos, he ordered 4. We had guacamole as a starter, and I think we had 2 drinks each. The bill ended up being 52 euros. I was like floored. I offered to pay half, of course. I mean, that, you know, that's not a problem. He wouldn't accept the money, but I could tell from his face, he was like, holy crap. And then he made a comment like, oh, Mexican food's expensive. And I said, well, not really, but I suppose when it's hard to find the ingredients and you only have like 1 or 2 Mexican places in the whole city, then I guess they can charge whatever they want. So anyhow, very interesting experience there. Tacos were okay. I mean, they weren't great. The corn they use in Germany is not very good. Actually, the corn they use all over Europe is not very good. And any good Mexican knows that the heart of the taco is a good corn tortilla with quality corn and excellent salsas. So that's what makes a taco. The last one is just a really interesting observation. I popped over to Amsterdam to see a friend before I left London for good. And I had to take the train in order to get to kind of the main train station and then get to his house. What do I see? The first thing I see is this salsa shop, quote unquote, and it's a Mexican restaurant. So there you have it, Mexico's influence around the world. I hope you enjoyed this little story time. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you like this content in this video. And aren't you glad that if you move to Mexico, you can have the best food in the world at a very reasonable price? I mean, $5 will get you an exceptional meal. You don't have to pay 52 euros. See you again next time, guys. Have a good one. Bye.